Oh boy, this was one of the roughest WrestleManias I have ever rewatched. What is up, guys? It's me, the ALE Double X Prince, and I remember going to WrestleMania 34. I was like excited. I was like, yeah, the card looks fantastic. The card looks great on paper, but god damn it, did the matches just not flop? And why is that? Well, one of the biggest reasons because none of these matches really had a big feud. It was just here's a good match that you might want to watch. And it doesn't work like that. You need to actually give us a reason to give a shit about these matches. Otherwise, we just look like a bunch of idiots just praising everything. Um, and actually, in a way, I'm starting to think that's why WrestleMania 34 was the way it was. Like the only reason why they gave us everything we wanted just so they could shut us up once and for good, us the fans. And I think that's probably the most disrespectful thing they could have done for us. WrestleMania 34. I remember I only liked three matches. The opening match, Charlotte and Asuka, and the Rousey Angle Triple H Stephanie match. Everything else was just kind of I mean, the Daniel Bryan return, that was a cool moment. Um, Taker and Undertaker, that was an epic squash match. But everything else was just kind of like, it didn't feel like WrestleMania, if that makes sense. So, one of the biggest takeaways from WrestleMania 34 is the epic dream match between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Uh, Two men that arrived at the exact same time. The only difference was that one made it big, becoming one of the biggest stars in WWE, that being AJ Styles, and Shinsuke Nakamura was doing fantastic work in NXT. And then the second they brought him to SmackDown, it was just downhill from there. And a lot of people say like, "Oh, his debut wasn't that bad." Matter of fact, you even rebooked it the exact same way. So what makes you say that? Well, if you guys anyone, I don't know if anybody remembers, but Shinsuke Nakamura was called the Artist, which was a stupid ass name, and he was pretty irrelevant. Like his something was out of it. The spark was not there anymore. But you could tell that they were gonna try to make Shinsuke Nakamura work. And then SummerSlam happened, and they made him fight Jinder Mahal. Um, and I can't believe to this day that Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura is gonna go down as a SummerSlam match. And for the WWE Championship, nonetheless, the same show that gave us. Keep in mind the WWE Championship had these matches. It had Taker and Austin, Bret and Owen. I'm trying to think of some other legendary ones. Cena and Orton, 2007. I know the 2009 one was shit, but take what have you. But SummerSlam, uh, I can't believe that was one of the WWE Championship matches. That's on the record books, and we have to live with that. But one of the biggest takeaways out of this is that okay, Shinsuke Nakamura was irrelevant. He was booked to shit. So what is the next thing that we should give him? Oh, I know. The Royal Rumble victory. And I have to apologize because I was one of the few people, well, almost everybody wanted Shinsuke to win. I don't know why, but we just wanted him to win. Even though he wasn't booked properly, he wasn't established well. Hell, he hasn't even been US champion up to that point. He hasn't won a single belt in the mid card division. So it was like, why do we want Shinsuke Nakamura at the top if he's been booked so poorly up to this point? And we needed a great way to rebuild him. There's a reason why we didn't get Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35, and that is because Bobby Lashley wasn't booked properly. You need to book your stars properly, and then that way we'll have him in big time matches. Like there's a reason why we got Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 35, not Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, which is probably the most anticipated match everybody wanted. Like I respect that. And now with the Bobby Lashley that we have now I want to see Brock and Bobby because now that's a match that I want to see. And the biggest question for this episode of WrestleMania Debates is, was Shinsuke Nakamura ready to be WWE champion? Some people claim that if he won, he was going to be at the top. He was going to rise above it and just be the top guy. And all I got to say to that is no, he was not ready to be WWE champion. Matter of fact, uh, him turning heel was probably the next best move he could have done. Now, afterwards, what they did with him was a little bit stupid. They just have him kick AJ in the nuts constantly over and over and over until we ran out of nuts to kick. And then the following year, WrestleMania 35, I don't know if you guys remember this, but he was in the Fatal 4-Way SmackDown Tag Team match. And that was a really clunky ass match, but shockingly enough, it was one of the best matches on the show. Looking back at WrestleMania 35, it was the Usos, Ricochet, and Aleister Black. Remember that tag team? The Bar, and Shinsuke Nakamura teaming up with Rusev, of all people, who he's been feuding with over and over around this time. So it was a really weird WrestleMania, that match. And normally that sounds like a pre-show match, but then they put it on the main card, and it ended up working somehow because this match was great. Um, but back to WrestleMania 34. Part of the reason why fans wanted to see AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura fight so badly is because there's a story there. You have, the last non WWE match that these guys both had was against each other, so it makes sense to do this eventually at a WrestleMania. But the problem is that this match was so misbooked. It was so horribly done. Remember, it's a dream match, people. It's a dream match. Okay. Um, how what else? It's a dream match. And even though he got screwed over by Jinder Mahal Shinsuke, you could have worked somewhere around it. Um you could have had like AJ and Shinsuke been booked as friends forever. Like there's a reason why Drew McIntyre and Sheamus worked right now is because, and I believe that's the match we're getting at Mania. I'm not too sure, but part of the reason why people want that match is because they have this friendship bond that works. And if they played that story off with AJ and Shinsuke, now we're invested. Now we're hooked. Now it's like, oh shit, we gotta see AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura. If they build it like that, the way McIntyre and Sheamus was, that would have been a perfect feud. Honest to God, that would have been a perfect feud for these guys. Um, but yeah, the reason why I don't think Shinsuke Nakamura was ready to be champion is because he was poorly misbooked. If you have booked him like a strong mid card division champion up to this point and booked AJ Styles as a phenomenal champion, no pun intended, then it would have worked. It was kind of like, keep in mind, the original plan for WrestleMania 34 for the WWE Championship was Jinder and Cena. It was supposed to be built at Survivor Series. It was supposed to be Brock Lesnar and Jinder Mahal, champion versus champion with special guest referee John Cena. That was the original plan. Remember that? Yeah. So that was the original plan. Thankfully, that did not happen. But it made me wonder, what if we had a different WWE Championship match? What if the card WrestleMania 34, what if the card was Shinsuke Nakamura redevelops himself. He forms a bond with Randy Orton because around this time they were teaming up to take on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They feud for the U.S. belt or without the title, and it could be a good, solid mid card match. That would have been great to reestablish Shinsuke Nakamura. And then once we finally get to revamp Shinsuke down the road, now we're excited to see where he goes from here. And maybe now we're excited to see AJ and Shinsuke have a match. And then what would AJ Styles do? I would actually, this is going to sound crazy, but I would actually have AJ Styles versus John Cena at WrestleMania 34. Why? Well, a lot of people are like, no, we don't want to see that. We've seen that match already. Here's the thing. After that terrible run with the WWE Championship, that of Jinder Mahal, and I know I'm constantly bringing up the guy's name, but knowing all the damage that was put to that championship, they needed a big time match. A match that we were for sure was gonna be good at WrestleMania to make you forget that awful year we got in 2017. Now, Shinsuke and AJ, we know they have good chemistry. They even had good matches in the WWE. Um, but if people go back and think, what is the worst AJ and Shinsuke match? So some people may say a random SmackDown match, but people mainly go to this one. And it wasn't a bad match. It was just poorly misbooked and no one gave a shit. And to top it off, it was followed by 3 hours of WrestleMania, almost four to be exact. Um, so there was no reason for people to give a shit because the story was shit and the crowd was dead, and it was really just a match that they gave us, the fans, just so we could shut the fuck up. And that is the biggest like problem. And I think over years, fans have decided to say like, yeah, that was a bad choice. And yeah, I think you need to book your superstars, your wrestlers, way much better than what you did. That was so disrespectful the way they've been booked Shinsuke Nakamura. And if you do not want him at the WWE Championship match, put him somewhere where you're gonna be at least invested. Because the guy was over. He was selling merch. People were singing his music. He was easily one of SmackDown's top players. The problem is that they didn't know what the fuck to do with him. And if you all you had to do, honestly, WWE, all you had to do is build them from the ground up and work your way. Whether you want to keep him in the US title picture, in the mid card division, in the tag team division, whatever. At WrestleMania 34. Fine. Or if you wanted to put him in the WWE Championship picture, give us a better reason as to how we got there. The way we got there was completely freaking horrible. And it really hurt Shinsuke Nakamura in the long run. Shinsuke to this day is still trying to find himself. Like recently, as of recording, he's feuding with Apollo and Shinsuke, um, and SmackDown, which is honestly one of the better feuds he's had over the years. But even then, he's the afterthought of the storyline, so I'm not like that invested. And to this day, Shinsuke has yet to win a WrestleMania match. Not that that's a big issue. There's many legends that never won a WrestleMania match. Believe it or not, Goldust has never won a WrestleMania match. So and hell, Triple H, as much as we give him shit, he has the worst WrestleMania record. He has more losses than anybody in WrestleMania history, believe it or not. But yes, I think the biggest thing we learned is to stop giving fans everything they want just because they want it. With that said, if you're not gonna give the fans what they want, give us something that you want, WWE, and give us a reason to give a shit. Like you gave us Brock and Roman at this exact same WrestleMania, but we didn't give a shit. There was not a good story to get invested in. Like, what if Brock was the face and Roman was the heel? Or hell, they could have done this. What if I know Dean Ambrose was hurt, but I think he could have made an appearance. What if Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose came and helped Roman Reigns win the WWE Championship? They all formed. They do the Shield reunion once again, and they end up becoming the heel staple of the WWE. That would have been an epic way to close the show. But that's a different point. The point I'm trying to say is give us a reason to give a shit about these matches. Otherwise, don't give them to us. Charlotte and Asuka, even though it was the best match on the show, Charlotte and Asuka didn't really have that good of a feud. It was just Asuka is basically acting like she's gonna fight for the Raw Women's Championship, and then she swerved us and went to SmackDown to challenge Charlotte Flair, and we were excited, but they were barely on TV together. They barely even cut a promo on each other. They didn't even sign a contract. They didn't do anything. They just went with it and said, "Oh, we're gonna have this match at WrestleMania," and that was a good majority of these matches. A lot of these matches, it was just, "Hey, we're giving you the matches you want, but we're not gonna build them up for shit." So whoever was in charge of booking WrestleMania like that, fuck you. That's all I gotta say. For the most part, that's all I gotta say about it. Shinsuke was not ready to be WWE champion. Like I said, if you're gonna put someone in the title picture, make him believable. Make it feel like they have a chance at winning. For us, the fans, it just felt like they were gonna give it to Shinsuke just out of pity, and you should never, ever fucking do that. It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, the final two episodes of WrestleMania debates are coming up. Next time, it will be from WrestleMania 35. Did Charlotte Flair need to be in the first ever women's WrestleMania main event? Join me for that one. Until then, I'm out.